DJI Air 2S versus the new DJI Air 3. Which one of these drones should you buy? Let's get it. What's up, y'all? Tight Shirt here, Warfield. I'm back for another video. It's been a minute since we've been down here to make a video, but we here today. I hope you've been well. Hey, remember to be thankful for your life today because you did not have to have it. If you missed my initial review of the DJI Air 3, it's a fantastic drone. I will put that right up there. In this video, we're gonna put them head to head and see which one of these you should buy with your hard-earned money because they're very, very close in price still. Now, I don't want you sitting around thinking that because the Air 3 is out that the Air 2S is just a pile of junk now, because being honest with you, the Air 2S punched way above its weight when it came out, and it is still one of the best drones out there for the money. So if you still have one, and you didn't upgrade to the Air 3, don't you freaking feel bad. And if you are considering maybe buying the Air 2S over the Air 3 to save some money, don't you freaking feel bad either, because it's still a fantastic drone. With that said, however, the Air 3 is a massive update in a lot of different ways. Some of y'all may say not fully, and we'll talk about that in a second. So we'll get the pricing and everything out the way first, and then we're gonna jump right into cameras because that is where all the controversy is. So I gotta get my notes out. I'm known to forget a whole bunch of stuff, so I'm getting my computer out. As y'all know, on script videos, I took a whole bunch of freaking notes though. Okay, so the Air 2S is still, right now, $999 with the standard RC controller. The Air 3 is $1,099 with the new RC2 controller. We'll talk about that in a minute. Now, you can't buy either with the drone by itself, and both of them come with a Fly More combo. However, the Air 3 also offers a Fly More combo with a DJI RC controller. Now, the Air 2S does not come with an option to buy it with the RC controller. However, it is compatible, and it also is compatible with the RC Pro. And at the present, the Air 3 can only use the RC2. However, there have been a few firmware patches already on the Air 3 that lead us to believe that it is going to be compatible with the RC Pro very, very soon. Now, I'm going to actually skip forward to cameras. First of all, both of these drones come with 8 gigabytes of onboard storage. Air 2S has a 1-inch sensor. It can go up to 5.4K in 30 frames per second. 4K 60 with a crop, and it can film in D-Log, HLG, H.264, H.265, all that good stuff. The Air 3 is a little different, right? This is where all the controversy came in. Come on, get in focus, because it's got 2 cameras. Not one freaking camera, but 2 cameras. We got to go ahead and talk about this now because the controversy is all about sensor size. Everybody is, in the forums and all that stuff, oh, I'm not getting the Air 3 because it doesn't have a 1-inch sensor and all that stuff. And what I hope to do with this next portion, because it's gonna be pretty long, so get some coffee, water, whatever you drink, is show you a ton of image samples out of both of them to give you an idea of how the Air 3's main sensor performs against the Air 2S's main sensor. So 1/1/3 inch versus 1 inch. However, it gets trickier because the Air 3 has a backside illuminated stacked sensor. Okay, now not to get all camera nerdy and all that stuff, but a stacked sensor is better in just about every single way over a traditional CMOS backside illuminated sensor. It gives you things like faster readouts, you get better color representation. Now again, the Air 3 does have that second camera, but I can't compare apples to apples with that because the Air 2S doesn't have it. And to sweeten the deal up a bit, I brought an RX100 Mark 7 from Sony, which is another 1-inch stacked sensor, so that you can see how the smaller sensor in the Air 3 compares to another 1-inch sensor from another manufacturer with different color science, etc., etc. And the last thing before we get into it, the Air 3 does have the ability to customize your noise reduction, so you can turn it up or down, and sharpness. The Air 2S cannot do that. However, to keep things fair, I did not go through any of that. I left them on the standard settings. I left everything in auto because I don't have ND filters for either. And I think that's a good representation of most people because that's how most people are gonna use their drones. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, now look, the Air 2S can film up to 5.430 frames per second, where the Air 3 can only go up to 4K 60. So to try to get everything like for like, I just stuck to 30 frames a second. And I mix and match some comparisons in here. Some of them are D-Log, some of them are just the standard profile, but just so you get an accurate representation of what the colors look like out the camera. You can see the Air 2S is warmer. I think the Air 3 looks more neutral out the camera, which personally I prefer. And aside from that, there's not really a huge difference to my eyes when it comes to sharpness or detail or anything like that. Remember, both of them have default sharpening on. I think they both look great, but if I have to pick, I'm gonna give the colors, the reproduction to the Air 3 they look better. Okay, night mode is, first of all, we need to talk about this real quick because the Air 2S does not have night mode. Also, the Air 2S maxes out at 3200 ISO, where the Air 3 can go higher than that, and it has night mode. And essentially, night mode can bump all the way up to 12,800 ISO, and it applies more noise reduction. But the result is staggering, and honestly the Air 2S just can't hang it all with the Air 3 when it comes to performance and lower light, and you'll see this on the screen. So let me go ahead and play this. It looks totally different. I think the Air 3 has much more accurate white balance. It looks better, it looks cleaner. It's honestly no comparison between the two when it comes to taking videos or photos at night. The Air 2S is 20 megapixels and it takes fantastic photos, but the Air 3 has dual 12 megapixel sensors, right? But they are also bend sensors. So without getting too technical, they can also go into a 48 megapixel mode. And I'm gonna show you a side by side of 12 versus 48, but I'm gonna also show you the difference between the 20 megapixels out of the Air 2S versus the 12 and the 48 out of the Air 3. Okay, so right here you see an example of 12 megapixels versus 48, and I punched in. If you look on the right hand side at the Air 3, you can see on the tree behind the bench there is more detail now that I punched in like 400, 500%. There's another 12 versus 48 I'm gonna punch in. And you can see the 48 megapixel obviously has more detail there, period. Now, this is the Air 2S versus the Air 3 at 48 megapixel mode. And once we punch in, I wanna pause right here because take a look at the Air 2S image. And this is another benefit of stack sensors and the better color dynamic of the newer sensor in the Air 3. It's a bunch of techie stuff. They sent me this chart that had all these like freaking details on it. Y'all wouldn't be interested. But anyways, take a look at the middle on the Air 2S. Do you see those yellow stripes there that aren't present on the Air 3 image? I took this photo several times over to see if it was maybe an anomaly between, you know, just the Air 2S taking the photo on the Air 3, but no, it showed up every single time. So I have to say that the Air 3, from my eyes, handles things like moire. I hate saying that freaking word, and other color artifacts that come with patterns better than the Air 2S based off of this image that I took several freaking times. All right, here's the Air 2S versus the Air 3 and 20 versus 12. Obviously the Air 2S has more detail there because it's more megapixels. And to be honest, I do appreciate the Air 2S's wider field of view over the 24mm field of view on the main camera of the Air 3. Now the next part, I brought in the RX100 Mark 7 because it also has a 1-inch stack sensor. And I know it's a little bit older, but I also want you to see how the Air 3 compares to that, which is a dedicated camera with a 1-inch stack sensor. So let's do that part real quick. Personally, I think the Air 3 looks better in every scenario. Let's punch in. There's more detail on the Air 3 image. I mean, 48 megapixels, that's fair. But I think it just looks overall better than the bigger sensor in the RX100 Mark 7. Here's a photo of the book bags. If we punch in, I think these images are pretty much equal. I couldn't really, you know, besides the color difference, it wasn't a big deal for me with this set of images. But low light is really where the RX100 Mark 7 got crushed. So some of these video clips and images, I didn't even have to use night mode, and the difference was freaking staggering when it comes to how clean the low light performance of the Air 3 is versus the RX100 Mark 7. Now to be fair, at 70mm with the RX100 Mark 7, the aperture is at 4.5, so the camera does also have to compensate by boosting the ISO, but all things being considered, if one of them can go with 12,800 and the other one can, the DJI is just so much more cleaner out of a smaller sensor. How they freaking did it, I don't know, but you can see the results on the screen. It's a night and day difference. I don't see how anybody could say that the Air 2S is superior to the Air 3 when it comes to cameras. The Air 3 gives it a run for its money in every single category with the exceptions of 5.4K 30 frames a second, whereas the Air 3 can only do up to 4K 60. But the Air 3 can do 4K 100 in slow-mo, it could do 1080p 200 in slow-mo, and it has a vertical crop option where you could go up to 2.7K at 60 frames per second, and you can still use D-Log, HLG, obstacle avoidance, all that good stuff, and the Air 2S doesn't have that. Now, You could go 5.4K and just do a center crop, and you would still get a pretty detailed image, but I like having it built into the software versus having to do it in post. Hey, that's just my preference. What DJI has been able to do with this new line of 1/1/3 inch sensors, it's incredible. Like, to be honest with y'all, and I'm not hyping it up, I prefer out of these two the image quality out of the Air 3. Plus I have the advantage of a 70mm camera also, which is just so freaking good. So anyways, again, I'm not saying that the Air 2S is bad, but if you want the creme de la creme of the Air series, it's definitely the Air 3 is the way to go. Now let's talk about size and weight. Obviously the Air 3 is freaking bigger. You can see it right here on the table if I put them side by side. Air 3 has some size on it, so if that's a concern to you, it is bigger and it is also heavier than the Air 2S. The official weights, the Air 2S weighs 595 grams, the Air 3 weighs 720 grams. So like I said, if that's a big deal, it's a big deal to you. Let's talk about battery life, because that's another huge freaking difference between the Air 2S and the Air 3. Honestly, I've been flying the Air 2S for a long time. Realistically, you're gonna get about 20 to 22 minutes of flight time. And the other thing about the Air 2S is it goes in from the top. So there have been people who have been flying and lost the battery and lost their drone because of that, because the battery popped out. You won't have that problem with the Air 3 because the Air 3 has the same type of battery design as the Mavic 3 series, so it goes in the back. In the Air 3, honestly, y'all, when flying it, you're gonna get roughly like 38 to 41, 42 minutes of flight time, depending on, you know, how you fly it, but it is a huge upgrade when it comes to battery life. The charging system is totally different. The Air 3 comes with a new charging bay, which is so good, that supports fast charging. And the Air 2S still uses that little strip where you gotta, you know, put the batteries on there and hope that they're sitting right and all that good stuff. Overall, battery life, hands down, Air 3. The next huge upgrade is obstacle avoidance. So first of all, the Air 2S has front, back, up, down obstacle avoidance. Well, the Air 3 has 360-degree obstacle avoidance. They accomplish it a little different. The Air 3 has omnidirectional sensors, so it doesn't need a whole lot more of them, but in testing, which you can check out in my full review up there, yo, I could not get the Air 3 to crash because of the enhanced obstacle avoidance on it. The other thing is the Air 2S has APAS 4.0, Air 3 has APAS 5.0. So Terry, what does that even mean? So the Air 2S does support master shots and active track and all that good stuff, but that only works up to 4K 30 on the Air 2S. You can use active track, focus track out of both cameras up to 4K 60 on the Air 3 with no problem. It can go around objects, it can avoid objects, it can stop. But also when the Air 3 is tracking something, whether it's a plane, train, automobile, whatever the case may be, I can pick which direction I want it to track from, which you cannot do from the Air 2S. Also, the Air 3 has stuff like cruise control, it has waypoints, it can even do like 2.7K vertical hyperlapse, which is crazy dope, but the Air 2S just can't do it. Obviously, it's not as new as the Air 3, but gotta give that advantage to the Air 3. And the last thing I really wanna touch on is OcuSync, right? So the Air 2S has OcuSync 3.0, which will give you about 12 kilometers range, up to 1080p, 30 frames per second back to the controller. Well, the Air 3 has OcuSync 4.0, whereas the Air 3 can go up to 20 kilometers with 1080p, 60 feet coming back to the controller. So when it comes to OcuSync, the Air 3 gets the W. Wait. Before we wrap this up, I got one other thing that I want to tell you about. This is DJI's new AI-based editor called LightCut. And LightCut is actually free. You can get it on iPhone, you can get it on Android, and it connects directly with your shiny new Air 3, and there's also other devices supported. So there's 4 really cool things about LightCut. Although it's an editor, it doesn't require that you download any footage directly to your phone or your tablet. Did you hear what I said? Some type of clever way DJI has figured out how to use quick transfer, preview together in some type of, man, it's crazy. However, it still will spit out a file for you up to 4K 60 full resolution to post online. I don't know how they did it, but it's crazy. The second thing is the footage that's on the drone or in your camera roll, because you can pull it from your camera roll too. The AI is smart enough to pull the metadata from the footage itself. So Terry, what does that mean? That means that it's smart enough to recognize when there's smooth pieces of the shots. It's smart enough to recognize when you're tilting the gimbal upwards and downwards. It's smart enough to speed ramp certain clips to make it fit the music. And on top of that, it's smart enough to recognize the scene from your footage. Not all scenes, but it's 4 of them, right? So it can detect forest, seas, fields, or urban shots, and it will automatically pair audio effects with the footage. I cannot stress to you how clutch this is. I have a whole video on why you should use sound in your drone videos to take your videos to the next level. It's not affiliated with this video, but it is a helpful video that's right up there. Well, LightCut does it for you automatically, and then you just export the already edited clip, and it actually does a fire job to your camera roll, and you don't have to edit anything. Of course you can if you want to go in there and tweak it and add different music and all that stuff. Yes, that stuff is available, but you don't have to. Now the next thing is there's these micro world templates that use kind of like a tilt shift effect to give you like these tiny worlds using your drone footage that's in there. Plus there's other templates that you can pick from as well in there. They all have different effects, different aesthetic, all that good stuff. Most of all, it's free and links up directly with the Air 3, and it can spit you out some amazing looking stuff. So make sure y'all go check it out. Back to the conclusion. There's a whole lot of other small nuanced stuff that I probably didn't cover because I talked your ear off for 20 freaking minutes about the camera. Overall, the Air 3 is a huge upgrade over the Air 2S in literally every single way, unless you count the 5.4K up to 30 frames a second. Again, I wouldn't feel bad if you have an Air 2S, but if you have the money to upgrade, you should get the Air 3. It is really a fantastic drone. It is a well-rounded drone. You're getting double cameras, amazing image quality, better flight time, better battery life, better charging, better controller support, better OcuSync, better APAS. Like everything is better about the Air 3 over the Air 2S. It might be the drone that most people should buy over all of DJI's other drones. I hope this video was helpful for y'all. Hope it wasn't a complete waste of time. And until next time, I'm out of here. Much love, y'all. Tight Shirt Warfare. I'm out. Piece of chicken grease. Talk to y'all later. Bye.